Good morning, friends. Welcome to another day of almost daily meditation on this, what's going to be a really sunny Monday before we have a rainy week. As we kind of get into our first full week of March and sort of maybe a little bit of springish weather. I think if you look around, you can see some of the flowers, the early flowers, the crocuses and other stuff are starting to sort of push through, which is always fun. I think it's kind of always a joyful thing to see. This weekend we had some really great readings from our scriptures. One of them is Psalm 121, and this is a psalm that in particular is a sort of a journey psalm that's about bringing focus up and also imploring for God's presence. And in the beginning of the psalm, it says, "I lift my eyes up to the hills. From where is my help to come? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth." Psalms were written as devotions, as prayers, and there's lament psalms, there's praise psalms, there's just all kinds of different sort of categories of psalms. They were used in the temple, but also for private devotion as ways to do this. And this particular psalm is obviously uh, about journey, which would have been very familiar with people in the early days as they had journeyed from place to place. And I think it's always a good question in our Lenten journey when we're thinking about where does our help come from? Where does what sustains us come from? What strengthens us? What gives us hope? Or where do we look? Or how do we sort of have that ability to see where we're going? I think in my own life, I can think of different times in my life with the struggles that I have and with the different things that I face, the challenges. Sometimes things seem insurmountable. Sometimes they seem impossible, or whatever that might mean. And I mean, I can think of times when I've just had normal challenges ahead. I remember thinking about starting college or starting, a work program or something like that, and you're like, you look at all the requirements, like, this is impossible. How am I going to get through all this? Or I can think of other times when there's just the challenge of relationships or the challenge of whatever else is going on. And sometimes it seems like things just aren't going to work out the way they are. There's also other challenges in life in which the circumstances around us in our city and natural disasters and in times of conflict, where it might not seem like something is really going to come to a hopeful end. Um, and so part of that is, where do we look for our help? How do we look for what sustains us? And how do we look for what strengthens us? And the Psalms are there to offer those kinds of, that's one of the things I love about the Psalms is they're so raw in human experience and in the depth of what that means for people. And so in this one in particular is, I love the image of lifting our eyes up into the hills, that we can see where God is, or know that God is there, and that our help comes from God, and that God is what made heaven and earth, so God is what made us, and that is what can sustain us through that long journey. So, where does your help come from, and where do you look to find God, and how do you sort of think about that very thing in your own life? Hope you have a great Monday. Have a good week, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Why should I feel discouraged? Why should the shadows come? Why should my heart be lonely and long for heaven and home? When Jesus is my portion, my constant friend is He. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. For his eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. Let not thy heart be troubled. His tender words I hear, and resting on his goodness, I lose my doubts and fears. Though by the path he leadeth, but one step I may see. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. For his eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. Whenever I am tempted, whenever clouds arise, when song gives place to sighing, when hope within me dies, I draw the closer to him. From care he sets me free. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. For his eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me.